Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.
Check, 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix.
It's time to wake up, folks. Don't touch that button. You're locked in to Wake Up Live from K.L.P Studios.
Good morning, Atlanta. You're tuned into our hit radio show, Wake Up ATL with Blondie Cera I. We hope all have had a great weekend. We have Kennedy in the studio, as well as he will join our show today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to all of our channels to get the latest from us. We have a great show for you this morning. Here's something wild. Las Vegas wants to bet $95 million in tax credits on becoming the next Hollywood, but the odds might not be in their favor. The city that reinvented gambling is now trying to reinvent itself again.
That's such an interesting gamble they're taking. The unions are really pushing for this massive deal with Sony Pictures and Warner Brothers, aren't they?
Well, what fascinates me is how the labor unions have become such powerful advocates. They formed this political action committee called Nevada Jobs Now and raised over $1 million just for advertising. That shows they're really going all in on this bet.
But when you look at the numbers, it's a pretty expensive wager. They're projecting 19,000 construction jobs, but at what cost?
You know, that's exactly what makes this so interesting. The whole project, Summerlin Studios, would need $400 million just for the studio, another $1.8 billion for mixed-use development, and then Sony and Warner Brothers would have to commit $4.5 billion over 15 years. Those are some seriously big numbers.
And looking at other cities that have tried this, like Atlanta, the returns aren't exactly spectacular, right?
Oh man, the Atlanta numbers are eye-opening. They're projected to give out $1.35 billion in credits just in 2024, and they only get back about 17 cents for every dollar spent. Vegas is actually projecting better returns at 52 cents per dollar. But that's still a loss.
So what makes them think this could work in Vegas? There must be something more to it.
Well, it's fascinating because they're looking at this whole tourism angle. The unions are arguing that just like major sports teams bring in a different kind of visitor, film studios could attract an entirely new demographic to Vegas. And with tourism down 11.3% between June 2024 and 2025, they're desperate for something new.
That tourism decline is pretty significant, but there's some serious opposition to this plan, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting. The State Employees Union, AFSCME, is basically saying, look, every dollar we give to these studios is a dollar we can't spend on essential services. They're particularly worried about mental health services, which are already stretched thin.
That perspective from the psychiatric nurse really stuck with me, wanting the jobs but not at the expense of public services.
Right. And here's what makes this whole situation so complex. David O'Reilly from Howard Hughes Holdings made it crystal clear that without these tax credits, the studios simply won't come. They have plenty of other options in states that are already offering similar incentives.
So it's almost like cities are in this arms race of incentives, trying to outbid each other.
Exactly. And what's particularly fascinating is how this fits into Vegas's larger pattern of reinvention. I mean, this is a city that went from desert outpost to gambling mecca to family entertainment destination. Now they're potentially looking at becoming a major film production hub.
The timing seems pretty crucial too, with this special session coming up next month.
You know what really gets me thinking? Vegas already has this incredible infrastructure for housing and entertaining large numbers of people. With streaming services producing more content than ever, and production technology becoming more portable, they might actually be well positioned to capitalize on these trends.
That's an interesting point about the existing infrastructure, but building up a skilled workforce for film production would be a whole different challenge, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and that brings us back to the training and employment aspects. The unions are betting big that their members can adapt and learn these new skills, but it would require significant investment in workforce development.
It really does feel like Vegas is at a crossroads here.
And that's what makes this decision so crucial. The special session next month isn't just about tax credits, it's about choosing a direction for Vegas's future. Will they double down on their traditional tourism model, or will they try to diversify into this new industry? It's a decision that could reshape the city for generations to come.
Looking at the broader economic context makes this even more complex. Vegas has weathered so many economic storms over the years.
You know what's really going to be fascinating to watch? Whether this could create a sustainable new industry for Vegas, or if it'll just be another expensive experiment in economic development. Either way, it's going to be a defining moment for the city's future.
Yeah, it's a grand morning, Blondie and Sarah. Everybody else, happy Monday. Wake up, ATL. It's time to wake up and get ready for work if you're jetting up to work on this wonderful, wonderful Monday. Now, over the weekend, Blondie and Sarah and audience, I was able to listen to a new album. As we're shifting gears, we're going to talk a little bit about music real quick because I wanted to give my first impressions with a new album that came out over the weekend. A lot of music. Blondie and Sarah. A lot of music came out this weekend. Of course, Chris Brown did a remix. It was Chris Brown, Bryson Tiller, and Usher. I will give my initial reactions on this show, Wake Up ATL, and then, of course, I'll do a more in-depth on my personal podcast. But with that remix, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people wasn't ready for it. I listened to that remix, and I just don't think that remix was as much as obviously we're here in Atlanta, as much as we love Usher, right? Atlanta native. I just don't think this was something that was very needed. I don't know what to think of it, Blondie and Sarah. I just think it was just kind of, I would believe that Usher probably phoned this thing in. And there's nothing wrong about phoning something in. I get it. It costs money to get studio time and to get everything in there and to get everybody on board for a studio. I just feel like Usher didn't really sing that much in this into this single remix. I think it was just kind of a rush kind of job because that's what the fans were saying, right? Obviously, it's reminiscing on Usher's hit song, one of his primary hit songs, right? So when you think you can remix on a classic, I just honestly thought that Usher was going to give us a little bit more. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think we received a whole heck of a lot from this remix, right? It felt quick. It felt like Usher didn't really have much to say on this remix or to sing on this remix. And it was this weird, I don't know, it's like this weird rapping thing that he was doing at the beginning. I kind of wish he would have not done that and just gave us his vocal range that we all know that Usher can do. But like I say, it's just one of those things that, it does happen when it comes down to a remix because, the fans, they've been asking for it. A lot of people have been asking for it, and I get it. When you ask for something from the fans, you expect to get a whole lot of results. And I just, honestly, I don't think we received a lot from that remix. Again, guys, it's available on all audio platforms you get your music from for sure. I just wasn't impressed with the It Depends remix. I think I would be fine if I just listened to the original Chris Brown and Bryson Tiller because, it just works. Usher's a good bonus, but I really wish he would have added a little bit more. And as we're shifting gears from that remix, of course, the album that I reviewed over the weekend, and this is something new that we're doing with music reviews, and I thought, it'd be good to do on Wake Up ATL to wake up everybody's morning. You're probably watching us and getting that coffee in. My first impressions of Ty Dolla $ign's Tycoon. Now, it's been 24 hours since this release, or a little bit over 24 hours since this release. Okay. I don't want to say it was a bad album. I won't say that. But I don't think it's a fantastic album. Ty Dolla $ign makes good music. I want to keep that on record. Ty Dolla $ign makes some good music. But I like the Beach House albums that he's done because, he's able to give us his vocal range. When I think Ty Dolla $ign, I think of an R&B singer. I don't think of a rapper. I don't think of a trap rap artist. I think of an R&B singer from Ty Dolla $ign is what I feel from Ty Dolla $ign. And his older albums and the Beach House albums, those albums are phenomenal. I won't downgrade those albums. Those albums are pretty good. I didn't necessarily, and I want to say that this album wasn't that bad. It's just I typically didn't really like a whole lot of songs from this, because Ty Dolla $ign was doing this kind of rapping thing that, I don't know. It's just kind of, I don't really rock with Ty Dolla $ign doing the rapping thing, because I know he's an R&B singer. And I get it. Sometimes you got to cater to the market. You know, he had a lot of new acts on this album where they're trap artists, and it just, you get tired. You get tired of the ad libs that a lot of these trap new artists are doing in the culture now. You get tired of it. It gets played out, and it's like, when I listen to rap, and maybe it's just my ears, Blondie and Cera, maybe it's just me being a little different, maybe it's just me being a little bit different of an artist and an artist singer and an artist listener. When I think about R&B songs, I think about vocal range. When I think about rap, I think about bars and how many bars that you can actually spit within your rap. Now, if you or call yourself a rapper and you're doing nothing but ad libs, then it just kind of doesn't, to me, it doesn't improve really well to me, right? I'm an old school R&B and rap lover, right? I listen to a lot of the old schools. Now, it's not to say, audience and Blondie and Cera, it's not to say that I don't listen to newer acts and newer trap acts. That's not what I'm saying. I just prefer old rap because it makes sense. You can actually make out what they're saying in their raps. It's the same thing with R&B songs, right? R&B should never, first of all, R&B should never just be filled of ad-libs, honestly. R&B artists and R&B acts, stick to your bag, write us a good quality song for us to really sing to, and make us want to play that song on repeat. That's one of the things I love in these acts. But when you have it to where, you know, R&B acts, they're trying something new because they got to cater to the algorithm, they got to cater to something different, then for me, it's not really for me. And I feel that Ty Dolla $ign tried to do something different. And it's not to say that some of the songs are not slaps on this album. I think about 3 to 4 songs that I genuinely like from this album. But that's a telltale sign that if I only like about 3 songs from your 18 plus track, then that sucks for me, right? Because when an artist come out with a project, I want to listen to the entirety of their album, and I want to love all their entirety of all their songs from that album. If everybody's able to perform an album where you like the entire album, you don't have any knock on any song on any album, then you've made a perfect record, right? It's the same thing, let's say R&B, let's think about Omarion, right? Omarion, I like Sonic Book 1. Sonic Book 2, I felt like he just was rushing it because, he had to spit something. Sonic Book 1 was very, very good. I listened to the entirety of the album. I love the entirety of the album. It's the same thing with Tank, for an example, as I'm speaking of R&B. Tank with the Savage album. Love, from start to beginning, I love that album. Chris Brown. Right? You think about Chris Brown, 11:11, right? From start to finish, even though that was a long album, that's like 25 tracks, that's a long album. But I like all these songs in its entirety. If you're able to have an act to where you're making a dope album and I can start from start to finish and it works, then you have a classic album. This Ty Dolla $ign Tycoon, unfortunately, I didn't like the entirety of the album. And it just kind of sucks because when Ty Dolla $ign first came out, I was so in love with him as an artist because he had a dynamic voice. And he still has that dynamic voice, y'all. He just had something different from your Omarions, different from your Tanks, different from your Chris Browns, right? He was different. And then he had the Beach House albums, which was dope. But then you got this, again, you got the newer acts and the newer trap rappers, the young rappers that come up on these projects and they can't really rap. And I say this with humbleness, guys, because again, I'm not a rapper. So, I mean, they're doing something better than me because I'm not a rapper, but they're not really rapping about nothing. Right. And for me as a music lover, rap about something. Rap about your hardships. Rap about what's going on in your life. And make it out to where I understand what you're saying. Right? So it's just one of those things that this album, in my opinion, good songs, right? Not great songs, but they're okay. Some people might say it's a little mediocre. I would go to the extent and say kinda. And I hate to say that because I'm a big Ty Dolla $ign fan. But this one, I honestly I'm a tough critic. I gotta say that this is a little bit mediocre, in my opinion, because he had these newer acts. And I get it, like I said, I get it. He's catering to an algorithm. It is something he has to do. But I'm just not a fan. Sorry to say. But, listen to it. It's available right now on Spotify to everybody. If you want to listen out for Tycoon, Ty Dolla $ign is available right now on any audio, any audio musical platform you get your music from. Back to you, ladies.
You know what fascinates me about power dynamics in academia? A new film called After the Hunt is about to challenge everything we think we know about truth, lies, and the gray areas in between.
The timing couldn't be more relevant with all the discussions happening around institutional power. And what a cast they've assembled! Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and Ayo Edebiri bringing these complex characters to life.
Let me tell you about the fascinating premise. It's set in Yale's philosophy department, where Roberts plays Alma, this brilliant professor up for tenure. But here's where it gets interesting. All these theoretical discussions about power and agency suddenly become very real when accusations of misconduct surface.
And isn't there something particularly compelling about how this script came from an unexpected source?
Oh yes, that's one of the most surprising elements. The screenwriter, Nora Garrett, was actually working as a data analyst at Meta before this script caught fire. She specifically wanted to explore this idea of a woman harboring a deep shame or lie at her core.
Well, that's fascinating how she managed to capture the academic world so authentically without coming from that background. How does the story handle these delicate themes?
You know what's really interesting about that? The film deliberately avoids taking sides. Instead, it presents this intricate web where Garfield's character Hank is accused of misconduct by Edebiri's character Maggie, but then he claims she's retaliating because he caught her plagiarizing.
That kind of moral ambiguity seems to be exactly what drew such talented actors to the project. I've heard Julia Roberts delivers one of her best performances in years.
Oh my goodness, yes! There's this incredible moment where Roberts actually forgot she had grabbed another character's face during an intense scene. She was so immersed in the role that she didn't even remember doing it until watching the film at Venice.
Speaking of the filming process, I understand Guadagnino has quite an unusual directing style.
Right? He keeps his actors slightly off balance intentionally. Garfield shared this amazing story about his first day on set, coming straight from playing what he called a very goofy dad in another project, and immediately having to film one of his most emotionally demanding scenes.
That must create such an interesting dynamic on set. How does that translate to the final product?
Well, according to Garfield, it's like catching a moving train. You either hold on or get swept away, and you can really see that energy in the performances. Even Roberts mentioned getting so caught up watching Michael Stuhlbarg's performance as her husband that she would sometimes forget her own lines.
The way they're handling these complex themes seems particularly bold, especially with all the classic cinema references they're making.
Exactly. They're deliberately drawing from filmmakers like Woody Allen, Mike Nichols, and All About Eve. It's actually sparked some controversy, particularly at Venice, where journalists questioned whether the film undermines the feminist movement.
How did Guadagnino respond to that criticism?
He was pretty direct about it, calling the question tone deaf to the movie itself. His point was that they were mistaking the subject for the object. The film isn't trying to make definitive statements. It's more interested in raising questions and starting conversations.
That approach seems increasingly rare in contemporary cinema, trusting the audience to wrestle with complex ideas without providing easy answers.
And what's particularly interesting is how the academic setting amplifies everything. These characters spend their days discussing theoretical concepts about power and agency, then suddenly have to apply these ideas to their own messy lives.
The timing of this release feels significant too, especially with all the current discussions about power dynamics in institutions.
You know what makes this film stand out? It's proving there's still room for sophisticated, challenging adult drama that doesn't shy away from complexity. Roberts even mentioned how getting older has given her more life experience and intellectual resources to bring to roles like this.
So, what do you think audiences should watch for when this opens on Friday?
Pay attention to how the film mirrors back your own assumptions and biases. As Garfield pointed out, it's not about reaching definitive conclusions, it's about starting meaningful conversations about power, truth, and the ways we navigate our relationships, both personal and professional.
Those are exactly the kind of thought-provoking films we need right now.
Well, I think we're going to be hearing about this one for quite a while. It's the kind of film that stays with you, challenging your perspectives and assumptions long after you've left the theater.
Indeed! Looking forward to seeing how these conversations evolve once audiences get to experience it for themselves.
Thanks, ladies. Now, before we wrap up here on the episode today, we're here to talk about another show that I'm briefly going to talk about, but I'm going to do a more in-depth review on Tuesday's podcast of K.L.P Aftermath podcast. Guys, stay tuned for that. Feels good to be a part of the Wake Up ATL. Things change a lot, which is great. Now, Ubisoft finally did not die down this franchise. Splinter Cell Death Watch is available right now on Netflix. And let me tell you guys, I was a little bit skeptical about the Netflix type of animation because sometimes Netflix does some really amazing things when it comes down to their content of anime, but sometimes it's like a hit or a miss. Now, I saw trailers of this and I was very skeptical because now you have it to where Splinter Cell is sort of making its comeback. And there's a running joke that I always say that, if they have the money and time to make an animation, they have the money and time to make a new video game. Come on, Ubisoft, give us another Splinter Cell video game because I like Conviction. I'm one of those people that actually like Blacklist. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't the greatest Splinter Cell game, I will say that, but Splinter Cell Blacklist wasn't bad, in my opinion. But besides the point here, Splinter Cell Death Watch is available right now on Netflix. Of course, Rotten Tomatoes give it a 85%, and IMDb gives it a 6.8 out of 10. Of course, in the shadowy world of espionage, Sam Fisher is a rumor and a legend. Pull back into action. You must help a new recruit unravel a global conspiracy. Of course, it came out October 14th of this year, so a couple of days ago. Very, very good here with this show here. This show is action-packed. It's a lot of blood spill. You gotta have... I love it when anime gives us a whole lot of blood and gore and violence. I think it works. I really, really, really love this anime style. How the way they animated this thing was really, really dope. I gotta say it. I know Netflix has this knock on animations for a second, but I gotta say this one's pretty good. This one is not really that bad of an anime to watch. It's action-packed, filled with the storyline. Liev Schreiber, I can't pronounce his last name right. He plays Sam Fisher. He played in a lot of great things. His voice work is quite amazing. And then you have Kirby Howell Baptiste, of course, upcoming actress to have some voice work in there. Again, I look forward to not only Sam Fisher and Anna Grimsdottir, played by Janet Vernay, classic characters of the Splinter Cell series, but I wonder, and I think this will be cool, as I say, Blacklist, the video game, Splinter Cell Blacklist, wasn't that bad of a game, in my opinion. I wonder, will they be able to pull more characters from the Splinter Cell franchise? Of course, will we see Sam Fisher's daughter, Sarah? Will we see Charlie and Briggs, right? Will we see Aldrich Killian, Coben, who was one of Sam's biggest enemies, of course, had to fake the scenes there to try to kill her daughter off, right? In the video games, if you know. Will we see more of these characters that's in the Splinter Cell franchise? I think that would be really, really cool. I really do. But like I say, I won't do a super in-depth review because I'm going to save it for K.L.P Aftermath for sure. But Splinter Cell Death Watch is available right now on Netflix, and I gotta say, this is really, really good. Again, the action pack is filled. There's a lot of blood, gore. They do a lot of... It's interesting. The animators do a lot of this thing where they're stabbing somebody in the head. These characters, right? Somebody's getting stabbed in the head with a knife or a screwdriver right in the head. Blood and gore spilled within that. I think that's what's needed in these type of anime series, because when you think about Splinter Cell's supposed to be the blood and gore. Splinter Cell's supposed to be eerie. Splinter Cell's supposed to be the espionage. And I think this lines up because they're cooking not only with Splinter Cell, but a lot of these video game companies are realizing that there's a market. And you know what's going to be a close competition to Splinter Cell? And I'm going to say it. Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid, the animated series on Netflix. I think that's coming, right? Maybe from the same team. Well, I don't know about the same team because Ubisoft, they had Ubisoft's own team to do this animation. So if Netflix idolizes something like this and kind of change some things up and animate it, I see them doing an MGS, Metal Gear Solid animated series for Snake. I see it because you think about Metal Gear Solid, that's a close combination with Splinter Cell. Right, both guys are working for this agency, whether it's Fourth Echelon or the Snake organization. Right, they're one and the same almost. Right, so I can't wait to see where that happens. Like I say, I do see Splinter Cell Death Watch. I do see it getting another season because it's actually not that bad of an anime. I actually binge watched it. Now, each episode is about 20 minutes. So, it's digestible. You can watch this thing in 20 minutes. You can watch this whole series in one night because I did, right? I had to for our show here, but I watched it through and through, and I really like it. I really like the voice acting for every character. I think it works. I think this animation it works, right? There's a lot of blood and gore. It's a lot of things that happen. I do want to see them do more characters in this show, but we'll have to wait. I do think they're going to get renewed for season 2. I wouldn't be surprised if they cancel because that's what Netflix does. They cancel good shows. That's just what they do sometimes. But I look forward to see what happens within Splinter Cell when it comes down to it. But that will wrap it up here. Wake Up with ATL with Blondie and Cera with featuring Kennedy Lucas. Like I say to our fan base this morning, this is Blondie and Cera's show. I'm giving them, this is their show. I just wanted to add some color to it, add some voices to it, add some reviews to it. But rest assured to our fan base that's listening, this is Blondie and Cera's show. I have my own 2 shows with K.L.P Aftermath and What Happened Was podcast. So I just had to throw that out there because a lot of people say, oh, Kennedy's on this show too. Nope, this is not my show. This is Blondie and Cera's show. So wake up ATL. We hope that everybody's having a great morning as you're traveling your way to work this morning. And we hope that you guys have a wonderful and blessed Monday. We'll catch y'all on tomorrow. Another new episode of Wake Up with ATL. Again, signing out for our Tired and Craftsman crew, Blondie and Cera, of course. This is Wake Up ATL. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.
Check 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix.
It's time to wake up, folks. Don't touch that button. You're locked in to Wake Up Live from K.L.P Studios.
Made in Georgia. This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.